This week on Three Dad Bods.
But not only that, but like animals do it too, you know? Um, did you know that fish actually yawn?
Fish yawn? I didn't know that.
Yes.
No, a little fish.
Fish-
in the
Fish
aquarium.
yawn.
Oh.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Three Dad Bods with Nickelback and the two good-looking dads right here. How you doing, man?
Really good, man. Had a good week of training and feeling good. Getting a few sales under my belt, and new job is starting to come together. And yeah, it's a good week. How about yourself?
That's good, man. Not bad, not bad. Excuse me. I had to go down to Birmingham today, and oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I was going down to Birmingham today for a sales meeting down at Mercedes.
That was that
and
good of a sales meeting.
I listened to a podcast on why yawning is addictive.
I haven't yawned
So
yet.
I thought it would be a good little topic for us to kick off here today. It was a very, very interesting topic. And as I researched it, first of all, by the way,
Yeah.
if any of our listeners are in Birmingham, first of all, let me say, I'm sorry that you have to live there, that I really apologize that for whatever reason, you just can't leave that place.
Bet the rent's cheap.
It is. Here's my analogy about Birmingham is you could tell Birmingham was once a great city, and it really was. In the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, all the way into the 60s, Birmingham and Pittsburgh ruled the country. I mean, it's the steel capital of the world. And in the 70s, the late 70s, and then into the 80s, the steel industry began moving towards China. And there are these gigantic factories. I don't know, those that are back in Utah, you remember the old Geneva Steel and how big that was. Imagine that 20 times larger. And that's what one of these facilities is like. And they had 5 of them. U.S. Steel had 5 factories in Birmingham. It was
Huge.
I mean, everything was going great for Birmingham. It was one of the largest cities in the South. People flocking there, couldn't get enough employees. And then that steel industry just literally, it was like overnight shut down. And now you have these big, huge vacant areas of these steel mines, and then just these rundown homes everywhere. And Birmingham, unfortunately, never has recovered from that. But anyway,
casinos, don't they?
Yeah. No, they don't have any casinos at all. No, not in Birmingham at all. So anyway, so I was listening to a not really as a podcast, but kind of like maybe a news clip or a story or something like that about yawning and about why it's so, what's the word? Not addictive, but like if you see someone else yawn, you kind of yawn yourself. And not only that, but like animals do it too, you know? Did you know that fish actually yawn?
Fish yawn? I didn't know that. No, a little fish.
Fish
in the aquarium.
Yawn.
Oh, that's interesting.
So question is, why is it so contagious? I guess that's a good word for it.
Well, isn't it what do they call it? The back of your brain, the medulla part that does the non-voluntary stuff. It's a nerve reaction.
Yes and no. So they really don't know. First of all, scientists really don't know the exact reason why we yawn. There's a lot of thoughts to it, but the average adult, how many times a day do you think the average adult yawns?
Well, depending on what kind of shape they're in, and
has nothing to do with shape.
Really?
Nothing to do with any of that whatsoever. Nothing to do with it.
Interesting. I don't know.
20 times. That's
Only
the average times. 20 times. Yep. That's the average time. So PBS did a study, and the scientists basically said that there's no scientific consensus on why we yawn. One theory is that when humans are tired, we stop taking deep breaths, which causes a buildup of carbon dioxide in the body. And so it gives us that big breath in and then releases all that extra carbon dioxide out. So a yawn might be a special kind of respiration. It builds up the oxygen quickly while expelling carbon dioxide even more in a deep breath. Excess carbon dioxide, other chemical changes such as a drop in oxygen and an increased compound called adenosine, I think is how you say it, could also act as quote unquote yawn gates. So these chemicals send a signal that triggers the yawn. By yawning, we compress the muscles of the face, driving oxygen-enriched blood to the brain. There's also another theory that yawning could cool the brain or stretch internal organs and tissues like the lungs, in our face and stuff like that. So there's a couple different theories on why we yawn. So, I think if any of us have had pets, we've seen cats yawn a lot.
Yeah, cats do a big old yawn. Stretch that back and
Stretch everything out. Dogs yawn.
dogs do all the time. Yeah.
Birds yawn. Kind of interesting, although we don't typically hang out with birds as much as we do like a cat or a dog. And then oddly enough, fish yawn. Like I'm trying to figure out, why would a fish yawn? It's just
There we go. Oh, there we go.
Even talking about it gets you going, right?
Yeah. Well, I do think there's a mental part of it, but I think you're right about the physical part, just on my own.
Yeah.
So when I had COVID, I think it was about the month after, I started having some difficulties. Well, not necessarily. There was a lot of lack of oxygen during the COVID period, but I didn't really feel a problem with yawning because I got some supplemental oxygen from the ER and that was fine. But then I think I got another round, that Omicron or whatever the hell they called it. So and it wasn't that bad. I mean, I got the cough. It was a lot less than a flu. But I did know at one point in the recovery, all of a sudden I couldn't yawn completely. I mean,
really?
I'd feel
Would you
like
cough or
I was like, I couldn't yawn. And then I started to panic a little bit. So I started thinking about it a lot. So I noticed I started yawning a lot or trying to. And every once in a while, if I got in the right position on the couch and pulled my back a certain way, you get a deep yawn, right? And then I feel better for a minute. And then I couldn't yawn again. And so I noticed that it started. I thought, man, is this just in my head or should I go see a doctor? And I started reading up on it because, I'm a hypochondriac and like, am I having a heart attack? Yes, right. There's one point I couldn't sneeze for,
my lungs collapsed.
I couldn't sneeze for a month. Right. And, it was weird. But, anyway, it was kind of like when you couldn't, you had that issue where you couldn't, what was it? Swallow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it's up there because I noticed that they gave you some breathing exercises and it's kind of funny. Maybe what you're talking about, the carbon dioxide, maybe that was part of the issue because I noticed
wasn't getting it in there.
Yeah. And then when I meditated or when I got busy working, it's usually when I'm bored that I have the biggest problem with it.
Yeah.
When I'm engaged with something, I don't think about it, then I don't yawn.
Yeah. And when you're in those kind of moments too, and if you stop and look at what your body's doing, I think you'll find you're taking shorter breaths.
Yeah.
Like your typical motion, when you're involved with something, you're taking those deep breaths in, a normal breathing pattern, in with the oxygen, out with the carbon dioxide. But as you maybe get bored or, kind of fiddling around, or even when you get tired, kind of those breasts become smaller. There you go again.
Two.
So why is it contagious? Now, here's
That's a good
something,
question.
some items that are brought up that I never really thought about, but when you think about it, you're like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. It's related to a phenomenon called social mirroring. Mirroring, not mirroring, mirroring. That's a hard one to say. Where organisms imitate the actions of others. For example, have you ever, I'm itching myself like this.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Or you
get
cough or you
yourself
see
the
someone
urge.
coughing.
You're gonna get yourself the urge slip, or even a laugh. Like if I'm like,
Yeah. Because you don't want to make the other person feel that.
well, it isn't that, but I, I remember as a kid, we would have these laugh contests. You remember that? Like
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
would stare at each other,
Until you
but
started
the
laughing.
minute somebody would start to curl their lip, their mouth up, you would bust out laughing.
Bust out.
It just, without doubt, it always happened. Or you say, "Hey, you're starting to laugh. Look at you, Carl. You're starting to laugh. There you go, man. There you go."
Yeah.
It's that mirroring. The other one is legs crossing too. I never thought about that, but when you think about it, if I'm sitting back and someone crosses their legs,
Well,
I'm myself. I'm probably going to cross my legs.
well, there's a certain sales technique now that a lot of these sales gurus are talking about. Neural, I think it's called NLI. I have to look it up, but it's based on psychology and based on what we're talking about. And it comes from the old, when you're talking to someone on the phone, and let's say he's from the South, and you don't want to talk like you're from New York City. You want to
Right.
start matching his cadence, pitch.
Right.
And even though you don't want to sound totally fake, you do want to speak to him on the same level that he's
Change your
at.
twang.
Yeah. You're not going to use 18 syllable words with a guy that says, "Oh," you're going to make him feel like, he's not going to be interested in what you have to offer him. So they teach you to match and mirror. Now, I think you're right. I think back in our tribal past that, and I think there's a lot more to this than just what we're talking about, but maybe it's a survival myth, a survival thing. Maybe we do it to fit in with our people. I don't know.
But it
What does the
isn't
article say?
just, it's not just people. It's also animals too.
Okay.
So what the scientist says is what these what these neurons are involved in is matching what we sense and feel in the way that we move. For example, if someone is seeing me scratch my face, they would know what it feels like. So you may be compelled to scratch your face. You know that they're itching an itch, and all of a sudden you might be like, "Oh, I got an itch there too." I could itch it out.
So when I say my itch, you're starting to itch
You-
too.
Not your 7-day itch, no. But your
That could get pretty bad. All right.
so, one of the directors of Washington University's Center for the Study of Itch, they conducted research. Yeah, that's an actual
We spend money on everything.
an
Okay.
actual center at the University of Washington. They conducted research on social scratching in mice. And what they did is they showed a video of one mouse scratching itself to other mice. The mice began watching this, and after a minute, the mice began their own scratching within 5 seconds.
Really?
And they were 5 times as likely to imitate the scratching relative to controlled animals. So watching it, and within 5 seconds, they start itching themselves after watching this video of a mouse scratch himself.
That's funny. That's interesting. So
It is.
So if you get a abnormal blinker, like Kalani Sitake when he's on the sideline and he's losing the game, I'm like, well, you can tell how many touchdowns are down just by how many blinks he makes. And if the
So
game's going well, he's fine. His eyes are all wide open, and everything's great. But man, when things aren't going so well, I just think they take a side-by shot of Kalani. I think they're not taking those shots now as often because
yeah,
it's so noticeable.
yeah.
It's just crazy. So do you find
We're
yourself
away.
blinking when someone else blinks a lot?
I would
don't.
say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I could be wrong, but it's not something that I've noticed before. The scientist said that when animals mimic others, they must be recognizing a useful behavior without thinking. So they decide this behavior is useful, so I better do it. It's kind of an autoimmune like trigger inside our own heads. The behavior could save energy and protect animals against disease. For example, since wild animals don't live in sanitized environments and are often exposed to biting and stinging insects that could carry disease, this mimicking could be helping them ward off infection. Social bonds may also be reinforced by yawning and other forms of imitative behavior. So let's see. So, for example, if someone flashes you a nice, friendly smile, and this is one thing I preached against, not preached against, but preached for, especially during the mask mandates and everything, because I felt like that smile, just a simple smile, which changes a person's perspective. You just walk by and say, good morning, and you smile. Like it's a natural instinct to smile back and say, thank you, good morning, or, whatever, it's just a common thing. When we have the mask mandate over us, that's taken away. And we saw depression soar through the roof
Yeah.
during mask mandates.
It brings up a good point. And see, when I used to live in a little town called Malad, Idaho, just north of the border, my parents bought some property up there. And so we thought, when I was married, we thought we were going to live up there. One thing I noticed immediately, just driving down the street, it's called the Milan wave. So what they would do is they'd put two fingers up on their, while they have their hands on their steering wheel, and you'd get that.
Like that?
Every
As a
time
driver?
you pass. Yeah. You just would like,
That's pretty cool.
yeah. And so at first I thought, man, this is kind of weird because down in Salt Lake, it's more like, when you go past some,
Yeah.
it's like, you son of a bee.
When you pass them on the right side.
I like you the other day on the phone. I
Yes.
was like, holy cow, Brent. But yeah. But no, what was nice about that though, is at first I thought it was unusual, but within a month, I was doing the same thing and not even thinking about it. It was just I didn't even think about it. Just put my hand up every time someone came by.
And how many people did it back?
Everybody. Not one person
Everybody.
didn't. Yeah, everybody. It was consensual.
Yeah. Consensual. I think people by nature want to feel good,
Yeah.
And so something as simple as like a smile or like, the little two finger, peace, malad, whatever that is, those are feel good signs that
I
people
also
absorb.
I think there's I think there's a negative on this too. With every positive, there's some negatives. Think about the other locations we're in, like the freeway in Nashville or the freeway in Salt Lake. Negative behaviors are mimicked. You see these, I've noticed this myself with, they see their parents react a certain way when someone cuts them off, like SOB, blankety blank. And even some of these nice little old ladies, drop the F-bomb.
However, though, let me ask you this, okay?
Okay.
If somebody cuts you off, that's your first initial instinct. You're mad, you're upset. But
they put you
if you see that little hand of a wave like that
would make a difference.
It does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. Then you're like, all right.
He just screwed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at first we react like they meant to put us in harm's way.
Right.
And they didn't.
I'm in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just absent-minded sometimes.
But that little wave, like, or like, I hate it when I let somebody in and they don't wave. That really bothers me,
Or the one that's really annoying is we all, like you said, we all trying to work together in most cases. So you see a merge lane. Now, technically, the guy that goes all the way up to the very front and then merges, he's actually doing what traffic people say he should do. But the rest of us get in that lane and wait. And then if anybody comes past us, we get pissed because it's like you're breaking this. There's kind of like a social order here and you're breaking it and we're not happy about it. Right.
The merge lane doesn't bother me as much as the exit only lane that has been advertised for the last 2 miles. From you go into the median between the exit and the freeway to cut into somebody. That bothers me. The other thing too, don't ever flip me off while I'm driving. If you flip me off, it's on. It's
psychotic.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, no.
Road rage is never worth it though when you think about it. So
just don't flip someone off. You know what? Turn this into that. And it will change everything.
Everybody do the Milan wave from now on. Start a trend. Yeah. Or even a, piece. Yeah. Or
a Boy Scout symbol.
Well, you gotta be careful though. You don't want to flash a gang sign and get shot. So be careful.
Oh.
No, don't be doing Tupac. No, I would advise against that. That's interesting. So what other areas do you think, yawning and we've talked a little bit about it, but are there any other, responses that we have biologically that
those were the ones,
so many
itching, not sneezing, but yawning and smiling. Those are the 3 that were mentioned into the article. Oh, and crossing legs.
Crossing legs. Okay. All right. That's interesting. So when women complain,
I'm going to do that in a restaurant. Like the next restaurant I go to, I'm going to sit sideways and cross my legs and see if I can see anybody else cross their legs.
I know. I just sit in the restaurant.
I'm going to stare at them like this.
Spread my legs out. I man spread like crazy. I'm a big man. I got to spread out.
Spread that wealth.
We got to spread that wealth, baby.